Hey, this is Rob Moore, award-winning author, leadership expert, and founder of therobmoore.com, and welcome back. I am here today to share a little bit of my story, a little bit of my background, a little bit of how I came to be where I am today. And if you don't already know, what I mainly do is I help people become better leaders so they can get the people that they lead to perform better no matter where they are or what they do. They'll be able to take people with the lack of motivation, low productivity, underperformance, poor attitudes, and any other issues or obstacles that they have to deal with and turn their people into top performers consistently from the ideas that I developed in my book, the Show Up, Step Out, and Shine Leadership Method. So it all started for me early on, during all my years of school. I started off as a very, very shy, very, very quiet kid, hated to talk. I was the guy in school that I was allergic to raising my hand. If the teacher called on me, I hated it because I just hated talking at all. I didn't like talking. I was quiet, I was shy, and basically didn't know anything about leadership, didn't know anything about being a leader, had no interest in being a leader, and I was a really, really good follower, and I enjoyed being a follower. And at the same time, I was a pretty good student in school. I wasn't a really, really good one, but at the same time, I wasn't really, really bad. I didn't do bad because I had parents that would kick my butt if I failed anything, but at the same time, I didn't shoot very, very high because I just didn't have the confidence to deal with people picking on me and calling me a nerd. Every time I got 100 on something or a 90 on something, I would have somebody picking on me because of the grade that I got. So I would just dumb down and try to stay in the middle of safe territory because I can please all of the people around me. Rob Moore back then was all about pleasing everybody and making everybody else happy. I didn't have any purpose. I didn't have any direction. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I didn't have any plans to go to school or anything. My biggest goal back then was just to fit in. And everything started to change the day of my graduation. Because went through this whole ceremony, I got my diploma, had a lot of fun, enjoying myself, freedom. I'm a man, I can do what I want, I'm free, don't have to do what my parents tell me to do. That's what was going through my head. Until we get down to the last 10 or 12 students that just happened to be able to sit on the stage during the entire ceremony while we sat in the audience. And then, as they called their names, they yelled out their grade point averages, which were not lower than a 90%. Which was unbelievable. I quickly understood why they got to sit up there. We had to sit where we were sitting. And as we get down to the last three students, I heard a 99.3, I heard a 99.7, and I'm thinking to myself, how in the world can these grades be possible? But then I heard something that I thought was impossible because we get down to the last student. She was a female. I knew her very well. She was the type of student that was into everything, never got in trouble. Part of the National Honor Society, high honors. She was actually in 11th grade, graduated early. Her freaking grade point average was a 100%. I could not freaking believe it. And while everybody's cheering and happy and celebrating, I'm not celebrating. And it had nothing to do with her, but it had everything to do with me because I realized at that point that I could have done a whole lot better than I actually did. I was so overwhelmed, so sad, so frustrated, filled with so much regret that I didn't know what I was going to do next because there was no future for me. I had no plans. I just wanted to graduate. I just wanted to fit in. But all that stuff was done. So I was so overwhelmed by everything. So instead of dealing with it and making some decisions to change, I ignored it and spent the next 12 months partying, hanging out with my friends, just doing stuff that's not productive. I was working a part-time job at Price Chopper, 20 to 30 hours a week, enjoyed that job, loved it, used all of that money just to party, just to get with as many girls as I possibly could with my friends. Just to go to as many parties as we could, go to as many carnivals and great adventures and you name it, we did it. And things started to get worse as time progressed because eventually, we all started to drink. And then drugs were being exposed into the whole thing. And I ended up doing something that I said that I would never do to my body. But because I was around it so much, I ended up smoking weed. My life was not productive at all. Until one night I went to the best party of my life. And on the way home, I was already having some minor problems with my car, but I never, dealt with them or got them checked out or anything. I just ignored them. And then that night, my car just really started to act up. I actually had this hole in the muffler that kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And as it got bigger, my car got louder. And the more you stepped on the gas pedal, the louder the car got. And the louder the car got, the slower the car moved as you pushed on the accelerator. And I barely got the car home that night. And as soon as I got it home, exactly where I always park it, when I park in the backyard of my parents' house, it completely died. Completely died. It was smoking. It was done. And I was frustrated and stressed out about the whole thing because I knew that it was going to cost some serious coin in order to get that thing fixed, in order to get it resolved. And guess what? I only had a few dollars in my hand left from the party that I didn't spend, and I had absolutely nothing in the bank because I didn't live paycheck to paycheck, but I lived party to party because I still live with my parents. I don't know how in the world my parents even put up with the nonsense that I was dishing out. I don't know how they put up with it. But I got so frustrated, about my life, and I had these, recollections of what I experienced at this graduation. And I didn't know what to do. I just knew that my life was messed up and I didn't know what to do next. Got up the next morning, have a conversation with my mom, tell her everything that's going through my head. The deepest conversation I've ever had with my mom, where I'm pouring my heart out. And like I said, I never went to college. I put in some applications. I did get accepted, but we never did anything. And I never asked about it. But at the same time, if I wanted to go, my parents couldn't afford to send me anyway. So I got so emotional with telling my mom everything that was going on. I ended up making a move that I shouldn't have made. I ended up blaming her and my dad for not having the money to send me to college. I blamed them for me being in the situation that I was in. And my mom looked at me, just like I'm looking at you now. She leaned in and she said, "How do you think I feel not being able to send my first child to college?" And that's all she had to say. And I felt this small, and I knew I shouldn't have done that. But she didn't get upset. We proceeded on with the conversation, and she basically flat out told me, "Rob, if you really want to go to school, if you really think that going to school, going to college is going to be the turning point for your life, is really going to make the difference for your future, then just go." And I'm like, what the freak are you talking about? This is all going on in my head. You just told me you didn't have the money to send me. So I said, "Are you going to pay for that?" She said, "Hell no." So I'm like, okay. I'm really confused. But then she proceeded to tell me that, listen, you can go to community college. You can take as many classes as you want. You can just take one. Save up. Take one. If you don't know what you want to be, don't know what you want to do, then just take classes. And I heard what she was saying, but I realized something different in my head that made the biggest difference, the biggest change in my entire life. Because as she was telling me these things, I started to realize this. I started to say to myself things like, wait a minute. Are you saying that I have the power to do whatever I want to do in my life? Are you saying that it's really up to me? Are you saying that I really have a choice as to how I really want my life to turn out? And before the conversation even ended, I shot up to my room and thought about, what am I going to do to make things happen now? And I just broke it down into steps. The first thing that I decided to do was I was going to cut off all my associations with all my friends that I was hanging out with. I didn't even tell them I was doing this. I just stopped hanging out with them. I didn't call them. I didn't pick up any phone calls. I completely cut them off from my life. Then I was already working at Price Chopper, part-time job, put in as many hours as I possibly could. If somebody called off, I was there. I got as many hours as I possibly could. Then I was like, I need to get another job. I always kind of wanted to work at McDonald's. That was one of the opportunities that came up for me. So I went to work at McDonald's. I thought I was going to like it, always wanted to do it, hated it. You know, they gave me a freaking hat the first day that was used, number one, and it was so smashed down that it didn't even like touch my ears when you pulled it over your head. And then they gave me this freaking shirt, which I was a size large at the time. The shirt was a freaking small, so tight, hugging me, I looked like a complete idiot. My responsibilities there was to clean, wash dishes, flip burgers. I hated every minute of it, but the money was phenomenal. They were paying like $9 or something an hour back then, which was at that time was a lot of money. So I hated every minute of it, but you know, I was getting like 40 hours between that job. I was getting like 30, you know, at Price Chopper. So I was working 70 hours a week, making some decent money, you know, and then I started to go to school, you know, taking one class. So I was taking a class, working at IBM, not IBM, I didn't get to that yet. Working at McDonald's pretty much full time and then working a part-time job. But then eventually things just started to open up really, really quickly. My mom came to me and was like, because she was already working temporary at IBM, she said they're hiring. So she told me to put in an application. I ended up getting a job at IBM. It was really, really cool. I quit that freaking McDonald's job that I hated. I ended up working third shift, 11 p.m. to 7:30 in the morning. Typical day would look like this. Go to work, 11 o'clock at night, get off, 7:30 in the morning, go to school, 8 o'clock, get out of school, maybe 9, maybe 9:30, and then sometimes go straight to work at Price Chopper or go home. That was my typical day. I did that for 8 months, started to get burnt out. And I knew that I had to make something, I knew I had to do something differently. So I started to look for opportunities in Price Chopper. And the only reason why I started to look at opportunities in Price Chopper, because as I started to want to do something differently, I started to look around and notice things that were going on. I started to look around at the people that were already working there, and I noticed that people were getting promotions. And as I looked around, I looked at some of these people and I was like, you know what? If these people can do it, I know I can do it too. So I put my focus there and I started to apply and do whatever I could in order to get a career with Price Chopper, an opportunity where I can quit everything else that I'm doing, make more money, have more free time, and have a career that I can build on for the rest of my life. Because at the rate that I was going for school, taking one class a semester, 2 classes a semester, and not really sure exactly what I want to do for a degree anyway, it's going to take me at least 10 years to get a degree in something. So I made a decision. I wanted to be an assistant seafood manager, and I was willing to do whatever I had to do to get there. So I was already doing a certain job there, certain tasks, so I upped my game and I made sure I was the best at every task, every responsibility that I had. I made sure I was the best, period, end of story. Then my actual supervisor was a trainer. He trained all assistant managers, he trained managers, so he was constantly training people. So I would study everything that he did. I would study everything that he said, and I would apply it to my work to help me grow. I modeled him. Then I saw that they were teaching out of this big, thick seafood manual. So on days that I knew they weren't going to be training from that manual, I would take it home. The thing was like this thick. I read it 2 times, applied all of that information to my job, and I became literally a part-time seafood clerk expert. And then I was just waiting for an opportunity for a job to present itself. A job did. I put in for it. Whole bunch of people put in for it. Went into the interview, knocked it out of the freaking park. That interview went so well. I was like, I know I got this job. Sometimes, have you ever like had an experience where you did something, you just know that it was the right thing to do? You just know that it went well? That's how I felt. So I'm just sitting there, just kind of like waiting, you know, can't wait to get my phone call to tell me that I got this job. And then finally I get the call and I'm like on the phone and there's like, Rob, you didn't get it. And I'm like, what do you mean? Rob, you didn't get it. What do you mean I didn't get it? And the guy just hangs up on me. So I couldn't even like find out why I didn't get it. So, you know, the managers that I was working with at the time, I asked them to find out, and they found out that it was the fact that in the interview, they asked me what my long-term goals were. And I said I wanted to go back to school full time. So basically what I was telling them is I want to take this money, make some money, use it to pay for college, and then go on, you know, to have this career with my degree. So that's why I didn't get it. They wanted somebody that was going to be committed to the company for the rest of their life, which I was committed. I just didn't know that that was going to affect the interview like that. So I was a little pissed off, a little aggravated, very disappointed, but I was like, you know what? I'm not done yet. I'll just put in for the next one. So the next one came up, went for the interview, got it. No freaking problem. And they were so impressed by the interview. They were so impressed by what they heard from other people. They were so impressed by the work ethic and the skill level that I had already had as a part-time seafood clerk that they would not put me in a training program. It was like, we're not going to train you. You know what you're doing. You don't need any training. Training is a waste of time. You know what you're doing. So they put me right in there. And, you know, I was part-time for 2 years, and then I ended up being an assistant manager for 2 years. Didn't really want to do anything more than that because I was seeing because once you get into management, you start to see, as you move up in the corporate ranks and the corporate ladder, you start to see different things going on. And I started to see a whole side of the business that I have never seen before. I was seeing managers so frustrated and aggravated, and I was like, I don't want that to be me. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to be an assistant manager for the rest of my life because I have no interest in being a seafood manager. So I did that for 2 years. And during that 2 year period, you know, I always had people coming to me like, Rob, when are you going to like start applying for a higher position? Rob, when are you going to take things to the next level, man? You're really, really good at what you do. You have a lot of potential. I can see you as a seafood manager. I'm like, I'm not interested in that. I'm not dealing with that politics. I'm not dealing with the nonsense, you know, and I just had, you know, the store manager, great guy. His name was George Lawton, you know, who kept telling me and pushing me and pushing me and pushing me, and he was coaching me through a lot of the problems and issues that were going on. And then there was a zone director there by the name of Jim Brown, who was also, you know, one guy didn't really understand who I was at the beginning because he made some assumptions about me, but eventually, you know, he was in my corner. And these two guys just kept talking to me and talking to me and talking to me, and I finally realized something. I was like, you know what? Maybe these managers are frustrated, you know, and aggravated in their position because they really don't know what they're doing. Maybe if they were doing all the things that they were supposed to be doing and really following things by the book and really, you know, just doing the right thing all the time, no matter what was going on, they would be more successful. So between coming to that realization and these two guys being in my corner, I decided to take things to the next level. But it really wasn't that simple because that alone didn't do it. What really did it for me was the fact that I had a son on the way. And with what I was making good money at the time, but it was not enough money to be supporting a kid. So I quickly changed my mind and I made some decisions that I had to take things to the next level because now I wasn't just responsible for my life, I was responsible for a son. So I decided that I wanted to go as high in the company as I possibly could. A few short months later, you know, got my first promotion into seafood manager. You know, I ended up being one of the best assistant seafood managers. Then I was a seafood manager for 3 years, and I ended up getting so good in the position. I was one of the best seafood managers in the entire company. I got so good at my position that I really started to get bored. It became too easy for me. And I wanted to take things to the next level, but I just didn't know what I wanted to do, and I didn't really see anything that I was interested in. So the company came out eventually with this program. It's called the Retail Management Academy. It was the first time this program ever was developed, and it was developed to take people that were really good people inside the company and turn them into store managers in 5 years or less. So as soon as I saw this opportunity, I knew that this was it. I was like, I knew I can do this because they're going to train me. And I knew that if I was trained, I can do anything. If somebody else can do it, I can do it. If it was possible, I can do it. And I looked at the salary on there and I was like, I definitely can do this. You can make up to $60,000 at the time, which was really freaking big for me. So I applied for this position. There was 80 applicants. I ended up getting the job. 80 applicants, got down to they picked 12 out of the 80, interviewed several times, went through testing, went through a whole bunch of jumping through hoops, and ended up being the #1 candidate for this Retail Management Academy program. And then there was all these things that I didn't know until after I got the position. I didn't know that you had to become a grocery manager and then a co-manager. I thought that you get automatically moved to store manager and you just be a store manager trainee for 5 years and then you get your own store. No, I had to go through all these things, and I did not want to do grocery. I did not want to be a grocery manager managing 80% of the store. I just did not want to do that. But I had no choice, and I had to make a decision. Either you do this or you stay where you are. And I didn't want to stay where I was. So I took on a challenge. I had some struggles, but I fought through the struggles. And once I got through that, everything else started to get a lot easier. And 5 years later, I became a store manager. I became one of the best grocery managers in the area. I'm not going to say I was one of the best, in the company. I was far from it, but I was one of the best, in the area as far as grocery manager. I was one of the best co-managers probably in the entire company, definitely in my area. And I became, in a very short period of time, one of the best store managers, as well, in a very, very short period of time. Ended up running how many stores? 1, 2, 3. No, I ran 4 different stores, for the company. One of the stores that I ran was one of the top 5 in the entire chain out of 120 stores, which was a very big honor. A very successful store manager, one of the youngest, one of the best. And as I did that job, it was very fun. But then I started to not really like certain aspects of the job, because there's so many things once you get to the store manager level that you see. And I liked my job, but then there was a few things that I really, really, really didn't like about my job. But the one thing that I was so good at, and I loved more than anything else, was the leadership aspect of being a store manager. I loved building leaders. I loved helping people perform better. I was really, really good at it. And as I went from store to store to store, I started to develop this reputation of taking low performing stores or stores that were performing at a certain level and taking them and turning them into high performing grocery stores on a consistent basis. It didn't matter what store I went into. Rob Moore was known to be a guy that's going to take the performance of that store to a whole nother level. And the reason why I was able to do that was mainly because of the leadership and the performance skills that I taught all of those people in the store, mainly the management teams. And I got really, really good at that aspect of my job, and I loved it. And as I look through my life other people's lives, I noticed that there was a big leadership problem, because every store I went into, it was the same problems all the time. You know, managers having struggles with their people. And why were they having struggles with their people? Because they didn't understand leadership. And I taught them leadership, and that's what made these stores perform better, all because of leadership skills. That's all it was. But I started to look into homes. I was seeing so many parents just struggling to get their kids to perform better. You know, obviously at the grocery stores, I was seeing managers struggling to get the people that they work with to perform better. You know, then I started to see it in the school system with teachers struggling to get their students to perform better. You know, during my son's first years in school, you know, he struggled. You know, he struggled, you know, with the parent aspect and the teacher aspect of getting him to perform better. So I've been through all that, and I just saw that this was a major problem in the world, and I wanted to contribute and serve and help do something about it on a very, very large scale. So I knew that I was put on this earth, put into this world, brought into my life to do a lot more than just running a grocery store. Yes, when I was running the grocery store, I had an impact on a very significant amount of people. But that was only a limited amount of people. I knew that I had to walk away from that. I knew that I had to be able to put myself in a position to be able to touch as many people as I possibly can. Because I wholeheartedly believe in my heart that we don't need a better president. We don't need a better government. We don't need more laws. What we need are more leaders. We need more leadership in the world. That's what we need. That will solve 90% of our problems if we just had more leadership in the world, more people that can step up their performance, more people that can lead people toward common goals. So I stepped away, and now I coach people, now I speak, and I've always had this high fascination with the internet. You know, just being able to really make money on the internet, doing whatever I wanted to do. But then at the same time, I was just also fascinated by the fact that with the internet, you can touch so many people. So over the past 5 years, I've been heavily studying the internet and doing everything in my power to really get my website, you know, turned into a vehicle that can help people throughout the entire world, no matter where they live. Because as me being an expert in leadership and out there speaking and coaching, I only can coach so many people. I only can speak to so many people. I can only have so many people on a teleseminar. I can only have so many people on a webinar. But with the power of the internet and having a website and a blog, I can touch unlimited people. So not only am I an expert in leadership performance, I'm an expert in internet marketing as well. So I can help people become better leaders, I can help people perform better, and at the same time, I can help people make money online because I use it to leverage my business. So I'm doing all of this for one purpose and one purpose only. I wholeheartedly believe that we need more leaders in the world and we need more leadership in the world. And leaders and leadership is going to make the difference, because one leader can impact thousands of people, turn thousands of people's lives around. And at the same time, there's also people that are in a position where they're under a leader that's not even a leader or not doing anything to add value to their lives. So they have to be able to take their performance to a whole nother level, to the point where it doesn't matter who their leader is. They can succeed. They can perform. And I have experience in that. You know, I've worked, you know, I turned my whole life around based on a decision. And I want to give people the tools to be able to do whatever they want to do, no matter who their manager is, no matter who their supervisor is, no matter who their subordinates are. I want to give people the tools to take their life wherever they want to take them. But then at the same time, I want to take people in leadership positions and take their leadership skills to a whole nother level so that they can lead the masses of people towards bigger and better things for their life, so that they can keep impacting other people and create the ripple effect. And then through leveraging the internet, I can touch unlimited amounts of people. So that's my story. You know, that's what I'm about. You know, there's so many other stories I can share with you. There's so many other things that I can say, but you can hear more about that stuff in my products, my books, you know, my blog, my websites, you know, my, any live events that you meet me at, and go from there. So I'm going to leave it at that. You know, the thing that I encourage you to do is go to my website right now at therobmoore.com. Comment on this video if you can, but definitely go there, get on my list, pick up the free stuff that I'm going to give you for joining my list, and let's make this thing happen. Hey, my name is Rob Moore, reminding you to show up, step out, and shine. Now is your time, so make it shine. Thank you very much.